Hey VC, what's up? It's me, yours truly. I am back to post a quick video here. This is actually going to be a video response to Steve, Harmless Rebel, his 100 subs contest. I was just kind of looking at some stuff a few minutes ago, and I stumbled across Adam's response video to that, and then I kind of tracked it back and found Steve's video, and actually realized I had not subbed his channel before. So many people in the freaking VC now, and sometimes you get to communicating and watching stuff and you realize that you haven't even actually subbed. So I did get a chance to watch a few other of Steve's videos, but I wanted to kind of do a quick response here before I ran out. So yeah, congratulations on the 100 subs. Glad I could join and be one of them. And here's my quick response to a kind of great all-time question, or two great all-time questions. First of all, playing in the background, I have to show that, Neil Young, Comes a Time. In my opinion, one of the best side ones on an album ever. Beautiful music there. But let me jump right into your question. Question one was kind of talk about or share an album that was kind of the most impactful for you. Now, as always, when these questions are thrown out, there's a million different ways you can take them, so I always kind of have a million answers spinning around in my head. So I usually have to narrow it down and be very specific. And so I guess the way I kind of thought about answering that question was to look at, a lot of times there's a lot of different bands we discover and, new things that come about, but a lot of cases it tends to be like, we're digging this, and then there's something new that kind of comes about that's kind of a branch off of this, so we start digging this and we have this branch forming. Then there's something else, and so we have like all these branches where you start to kind of branch out into different things. I think most of us grow musically like that, but the one thing that we don't get to experience as often is when you have these branches going on, and then all of a sudden something completely new and different that's starting a completely different tree joins into your musical world. And that's what I think you don't get to experience very often, especially as a true music lover, because oftentimes it's discovery, and then, oh, by listening to this, I discovered this, and when I heard that, I discovered this, and again, it's kind of branching. But when you can just start a completely new line of musical love, if you will, I think that's the impactful albums and moments that we just don't get that often. So that's kind of how I base my picks on these albums. So the first one here, I'll just kind of show it first of all. Neil Young's Trans. That would definitely have to be on my list as one of the most impactful albums. Why was it so impactful? Two reasons. Number one, those of you who've watched my videos before, you've heard me talk about my love with the whole voice box thing. The robot voice, if you will. That's what I used to call it when I was younger. Well, for the longest time, anything that had a voice box in it was just like the coolest thing in the world to me, and I fell in love with it so fast and so quick. It was just ridiculous. And so that's really kind of how I first came to Roger and Zapp and all that kind of stuff, that funky voice box types R&B. And then of course when the 80s came around, when break dancing and all that came about, the whole voice box and robotic voice and all of that was just scattered everywhere throughout the whole break dancing culture and world. So of course I was in heaven during that time period as far as music goes. And that still, impacts me to a great deal today. But what started that entire voice box thing for me was, I'm a kid at that point in time. I couldn't have been past fourth grade, fifth at the most. But actually, no, we left there. So I was either third or fourth grade, somewhere around there. I'm living on the east side of my hometown. We're talking projects, Section 8, the whole nine. We weren't on top of the world at that point in time. We had maybe 2 or 3 channels on our television, okay, living in the projects. My whole world at that point in time is all gospel and R&B. You know, that's pretty much all I'm listening to. Stuff like, I don't know, maybe some old disco stuff, because we're talking about coming right out of the 70s into the early 80s. You know, songs like Double Dutch Bus. That's something that's like coming to mind of something that was really big back then, right when New Edition first came out. Popcorn Love, Candy Girl, all that kind of stuff. So that's what I'm digging. That's what's going on. The only rock song I knew at that point in time was Another One Bites the Dust by Queen. That was it. Rapture by Blondie, if you call that a rock song. But those were the two. Well, again, I'm flipping through the 3 or 4 channels we have. Nobody else is home. It's after school. And Neil Young, the Live in Berlin concert that he did, comes on. And I just happened to start watching it right when he started performing Sample and Hold live. And again, you talk about a kid sitting in front of the TV going, I mean, just blown away. And I'll tell you how powerful that song is. I didn't discover who that actually was until about 10 years ago. If that, somewhere around 10 years ago, 9-10 years ago, when I was out in Boston with a friend. We were going through, looking at a record store, and I pulled this out, and I was like, oh, I never heard this Neil Young album, and just started playing around with it in the store, and Sample and Hold came on, and I'm like, oh my gosh, 20 plus years, and I finally found this freaking song. But that's just how impactful it was. Because keep in mind, I saw it that one time, so there was nothing that was even enough for me to know as an adult that was Neil Young. No idea. I remember the rhythm of it. I remember the essence of the song. I remember singing it for 20 years, kind of making up my own words because I had no clue. So again, that's just how impactful, with all the stuff I just rambled on about, how impactful this freaking album was for me. So that would have to be on my list. Awesome. I mean, to hear a song one time and still be humming it 20 years later, that's pretty freaking impactful. The second one I have to go with, and so again, there was a tree that kind of started for me, because again, there was really no rock music in my life or anything, and that was a whole separate tree that started. Now, going through my musical life, I get into, junior high, we're talking about the mid 80s there or whatever, so I'm listening to Van Halen 1984, I'm listening to Fat Boys, LL Cool J, starting to get into 80s new wave and Culture Club and Billy Idol and all that. Going to high school, going into college, I'm into hip hop and kind of when the gangster rap thing is coming in. Going into college, though, a little more into the Public Enemy. I discovered New Order, stuff like that, kind of going through college. But then while I'm in college, I'm in a friend's room one time. He's playing this tape, and I'm like, that sounds kind of cool. And so I asked him if I could borrow it. I borrow it for about a week or so. I dub it, I give it back to him, and it just became an extremely impactful thing for me. And it started a whole nother tree for me. And that was, didn't see that coming, although LJ might have, Kenny G Live. That was the tape that I borrowed from him. And I don't know what it was about it, but it was just, when I was listening to those songs, it's like just something about it I got, and it sounded good, and it felt good, and I knew nothing of jazz at that point in time. Did not own a single jazz cassette or CD whatsoever. And all of a sudden, I'm digging this cassette. It doesn't come out of my car. And so all things jazz for me, to Dizzy Gillespie and Sonny Rollins and Coltrane and Tyner and Henderson and Morgan, and I mean on and on and on. All that stuff that I dig so much now. Durham, just free jazz, all the stuff that I dig so much now, it all came from this seed being planted to start that entire new line of music for me. So this album was extremely impactful. And again, we make fun of Kenny and being cheesy and all of that. I love the way he made fun of himself on that Snickers commercial or whatever. But I mean, you guys know me. It's like I don't care. The guy can play. The guy makes great melodies, and I love him to death. Would love to see him live. So those are my two most impactful albums, two most impactful musical moments. And I've had a number of them. I've seen some great concerts. I've met incredible artists. Just all kinds of just great stuff. Great bands I've seen that have been very moving. But the two most moving moments actually fall around the exact same band. When I was in junior high, I used to collect baseball cards. So my friends and I would go downtown, take the city bus, collect, get our cards or whatever, go to the shops, take the bus back home. One day we're trying to kill time, waiting for the next bus. We go into this record store. None of us play vinyl, buy vinyl, or anything at the time, but we're just browsing because it's something to do, looking at the album covers. I'm flipping, and then this pops up. And I'm like, whoa, like what's that? Only thing I know about Kiss at the time is Heaven's on Fire and Tears Are Falling. The stuff that was in MTV rotation. Other than that, I know nothing about Kiss. I know they've been around forever because I remember seeing the Kiss dolls when I was younger, but I know nothing about them. I see that cover, I pull it out of the bin, flip it around, I've got to have this. I know my mom has an old record player, I have no idea what's on this, but I have got to have this. And so Kiss Alive 2 comes home, and I mean, just seeing that cover alone completely rocked my world. And this really got me into getting into the classic rock stuff, and after this is when I'm discovering The Who. It's when I'm first discovering Zeppelin, all of that stuff. So you talk about an impactful moment was pulling this album out of the stacks, and just seeing that back cover completely changed my musical world moving forward. So that's one. The second thing is one of the most impactful moments. I tend to think about concerts when I think about very impactful musical moments. I could throw Oaktown 357 when I saw them in concert as being an impactful moment, but that was still pale next to this one. So I've been, I take the album home. Again, we're talking about grade school, junior high, or whatever, and I throw it on and I hear You Wanted the Best, You Got the Best, Kiss, and I'm listening to, the guitars and crowd going crazy, and I'm looking at, the inside cover the whole time, and just every time I listen to this album, I'm opening this up. I even bought a second copy later on so I could hang it on my wall, because that just blew my mind. Oh my goodness. Like, I couldn't even comprehend what it would be like to see that. And a year and a half ago, Kiss comes to town. I go see them. You Wanted the Best, You Got the Best, the hottest band in the world, Kiss, Detroit Rock City kicks in. They come down out of the rafters, and I'm floored. I'm just like, that's it. So we're jamming throughout the concert. I mean, awesome songs, awesome show. And then somewhere towards the end, I can't remember what song they were playing. Well, the rafters come up on both sides. They're standing up on it. The drum set comes up. The pyro's going off. And they have that exact same tiger banner hanging out from the bottom of the drum set. So to have this affecting me as much as it did when I was a kid, and then 20 plus years later to have that moment where I actually saw this exact shot live, same rafters on both sides, same drum set, exact same banner hanging down, pyro going off the exact same way, and there was literally a 30-second time period where I kind of had like a out-of-body experience. I mean, to some degree, of just one of those memories from back then so got snapped and connected. I shouldn't say snapped, but something just snapped, and it got so connected that it was like I was literally living in the album cover there for a moment. And I just thought, like, holy cow, I just completely and totally felt like a 9-year-old kid again. It's like that was amazing. And it's one thing to go to a concert and rock out. It's another thing to be able to be taken back to a moment like that. So musically, probably one of the most impactful moments ever. But anyway, there you go. That's my quick story. Again, congratulations on the 100 subs, and look forward to catching up with you. All right, take care, VC.